inflammation, chronic inflammation and its role in disease formation. Nako, may magtatanong yan, ano kaya yan? Okay. Ang i-share ko naman po sa inyo, what is inflammation? Okay? Ano pong nag-enter sa mind natin once we hear the word inflammation? Some would say, paano po pag nasugatan ako? Inflammation. That is inflammation po, inflammation. But we don't stop there. We have to discover more, we have to learn more, ano pa po ba ang naidudulot ng inflammation. So, as defined, it is part of the body's process. So, parte po yan. Natural po yan sa katawan natin. That is, it means our body is functioning, by which the immune system defends the body from harmful agents such as, ano po yun, bacteria, virus. So, mapapansin ninyo, if we go back to our lesson, yung last time po na lesson natin, in which we emphasize that we need to boost our immune system. Bakit po? Tutulungan natin yung soldiers natin sa katawan natin. Therefore, this inflammation pala is part of it, no? Importante pala ito sa immune system. To maintain a good health, kailangan pala ito. So, kung kailangan ito, what are the other important facts na dapat natin malaman? Sasabihin ko po yun. Next is, there are two types of inflammation. Meron po kung tawagin ay acute, and of course, the other one is chronic. Tinanong po ako, may nagsabi po sa akin, sabi ko, what is acute? Sabi po sa akin, Doc, pag magandang lalaki daw at magandang babae, cute po yun. Pag hindi acute, nako, hindi po yun ang definition, ha? So, let me go further. The chronic, let us describe what is an acute inflammation. Pag acute inflammation po, rapid po siya, mabilis po ang kanyang reaction, ang reaction ng mga cells. But it takes around mga few days yung course of its action. So, yung pag-action niya, ganun katagal po. But it is slower in chronic inflammation as well as it takes longer. So, matagal po ito. So, it's quite persistent. At nandun po palagi ang inflammatory cells or yung response ng katawan natin. Now, gusto ko, ang pinaka way ko to explain this one is simply by imagine if you have, of course, a country, isang country po, and there are invaders. So let us liken the country as your body. The soldiers are your immune system, and immune cells rather. Then the invaders are, it could be a bacteria, a virus, or other toxins. Now, anong ginagawa po ng soldier natin? Siyempre, they would defend our country. Yun, ganun po yung ginagawa nila. Now, pag natalo nila yung invaders, what happens is that, of course, they go back. They go back to their camp. Balik po sila. Parang ganun din po sa acute inflammation. May invasion, they act on that, they kill the invaders, and after that, balik po na naman sila sa normal function. But in chronic, it's quite different. Pwedeng may umatake po, but the war, let me call that the war, the battle, ay medyo matagal po. To the point na itong mga soldiers natin in one condition in chronic inflammation is that may tinatawag tayong autoimmune. Ano po yun? So, imbis na po itong mga sundalo po are attacking the enemies, they are attacking their own people or even own soldier. So, magkaka-problem po yun. So, let me emphasize that later. So, let us understand what is so-called acute inflammation, of course, chronic inflammation. We have to remember that what is important in here is that the right kind of inflammation is essential to the body's healing system. So, for us to have a good and healing system, kailangan po may right kind of inflammation. So, parang sinasabi po, para mag-heal, there got to be an inflammation. Pero, tama. Bakit po? Pag sobra at underperforming na inflammation, may problema po yun. Therefore, but chronic inflammation can be a problem. Bakit kaya sinabi? So, let me emphasize. Ang inflammation po is a natural part of the healing process. So, parte po yun. But when it becomes chronic, it is important to get it under control. So, kailangan makontrol po yan to reduce your risk of long-term damage. So, yun pa lang ibig sabihin nun. So, kung hindi natin makontrol yan, eventually, yun po magkakasakit po tayo. Bakit po? Well, because this is a chronic type, matagal po. Sometimes nga po, you don't notice it. You would just notice it if meron na pong sakit dahil may na-damage na organ or probably system. When you have chronic inflammation, your body's inflammatory response can eventually start, this is the bad thing, damaging healthy cells, tissues, and organs. Over time, this can lead to DNA damage, so cellular level na po, tissue death, and internal scarring. So can you imagine kung continuous ang inflammation, ito po ang epekto. Can you imagine? It can cause damages to your cells, tissues, and organs. So, ang sabi nila, ang chronic inflammation is the silent killer. Kaya nga po, very subtle lang po siya, no? Tahimik lang po siya, pero it is already damaging our body. So, what conditions are linked to chronic inflammation? One is a cardiovascular disease. I think I mentioned this nung una po, na pag eventually po itong sinasabi nating heart attack or myocardial infarction, yun po ang medical term. Especially the blood vessels there is an inflammatory process that promotes or leads to atherosclerosis. That is the thickening of the blood vessels. At alam naman natin, pag nag-thicken yan, the passage of blood to the tissues or to the organ, bababa po, and that is not good. So it can lead, sabi ko nga, to heart attack. It can have an effect also in the so-called autoimmune conditions. So anong autoimmune conditions ulit? Conditions wherein your own body cells are attacking your own cells, which is not good. Kagaya po yan ng mga forms of, may tinatawag tayong lupus or other forms of arthritis. May mga ganun po. And another thing is that cancer cannot grow without inflammation. So can you imagine that? So there is really a need to reduce or control this so-called inflammation. I hope at this point, lalo na pong po sa atin, yung role nitong inflammation. Is it a friend or a foe? Sabi nga nila. Sige, further pa po tayo mag-discuss. Of course, it can lead to joint pain. Yung mga arthritis nga po. Other diseases, pati nga po yung mga urinary tract infection, heart disease, chronic bronchitis, na-mention po dun. So, base ito sa pag-aaral. Again, I always emphasize, kailangan, this is backed by science and research. Okay. CPPO, mapapansin niyo po dito, cases of obesity, diabetes, infection, injury, ito may mga inflammatory process po yan. And that inflammatory process can lead to other diseases. Sabi ko nga po, the cardiovascular disease, the eye disorder, the joint pain, the cancers, the arthritis, metabolic syndromes, Alzheimer's, at yung na-mention ko po last time, kung matatandaan nyo po, I mentioned about the gut, yung mga colitis doon, yung inflammation doon sa gut. These are the things that can happen. This inflammation may contribute or can contribute or lead to these diseases based on the studies. Now, look at this one. Sa brain, may mga pro-inflammatory cytokines. It can lead to damage or problem in the cardiovascular. Magkakaroon po, of course, heart disease. Sa muscle naman, ito po mapapansin, magkakaroon po ng muscle pain or even weakness. Sa bone, osteoporosis rather. The skin, mapapansin nyo, nag-crack up yung, o nag-i-erupt yung mga pimples. Yung eczema ay mas grabe or consistent. Tapos sa thyroid, the lungs, the GIT tract, the kidneys, and even the liver. So yun po, makikita nyo may mga effect and they have a disease end result na makikita because of this inflammation. So sana at this point again, you would, I should say, appreciate na, ito palang inflammation na to, hindi biro, no? This is pala a very important process that can be of so-called beneficial sa akin or the other way around. Okay? Now, therefore, the concept of anti-inflammatory and pro-inflammatory ay nagka-crop up po doon. Makikita ninyo na if chronic inflammation, if we have such thing as chronic inflammation, so we must do something to control it or reduce. So therefore, ang strategy is have an anti-inflammatory food supplement or diet or activities or health practice. Yun po ang nire-recommend. So, ang food, as mentioned nung una, ay very important. We all know that. And we know that it has an effect. Now, in relation to my lecture, may mga foods po na I should say you should avoid, minimize or avoid, because it has a so-called inflammatory effect. It can increase the inflammation for that matter. Ano po yun? Well, ito ay base na rin sa pag-aaral, especially the refined sugar. Naku, ang dami po nun. Sabi nga nila, that is a poison. Minabasa pa nga ako dun. Well, why did that author say that it is a poison or a toxin for that matter? Because it leads to, yun na nga po, well, inflammation and eventually to all those metabolic diseases, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. It can contribute to those diseases. So, yun ang pag-aaral nila. So, refined carbohydrates such as white bread and pastries. Naku, masasarap daw yun. But, well, we are sort of in a quarantine ngayon. I still suggest live healthy pa rin po. We must do our part na, maging healthy tayo. Kasi po, sabi ko nga po nung una kong lecture, if we are unable to manage the comorbid diseases natin, magkaka-problem po tayo. Diba? Sabi ko po yun. Kasi po, wala pong ibang, technically walang ibang ginagawa, no? We are confined, sabi nga, because of our condition. Pero it's not an excuse. Or of course, it's not an excuse rather, that we don't practice a healthy lifestyle. Pwede naman mag-exercise, pwede naman good food, take good food, drink lots of fluid, di ba? Mga ganun po. And mag-a-add pa po ako later. What else? Fried foods such as French fries. Naku po, yung mga bata, lalong-lalo na yung mga bata po, magrereklamo nito. But, ayan na nga po. Nag-react na po. Okay, that's okay. But it's in the research. Okay? Okay, nag-react po ang anak ko. So, fried foods such as French fries, hindi po talaga po. It can contribute to inflammation. What else? Nagre-reklamo pa rin po siya. Red meat. Thank you. And also processed meat such as hot dogs and sausages. Now, well, in our condition ngayon, may mga canned foods po tayo and we all know na mga processed foods or may mga preservatives po yun. And again, it has an effect sa katawan natin. Particularly kung sa lecture natin regarding sa inflammation, definitely, it can contribute to the increased inflammation sa katawan natin. Okay? So, with that, ano po ba ang strategy natin? So, we have already a strategy nung una, ipagpatuloy po natin to. Now, in particular, if we want to reduce inflammation, control the inflammation, una po natin gagawin ay yung tinatawag natin na SHAPE po. Diba? SHAPE. Yun po yung itinuro sa atin ni Ap Jericho, which ay even in our team, talagang part yan ng aming health education. We would base this on, this is rather supported by studies, itong mga activities na yan. For example, yung exercise. As we all know, when you do exercise, you will have a good circulation, good distribution of cells, and eventually good health. Now, based on those studies, nakikita nila na the inflammation, no, ay reduce. Maganda po. The good effect. The good reduce inflammation. Eka nga, no, to use those words. Now, what else? The food. Na-mention ko na yan a while ago. So, yung food, there are food to avoid. Na-mention na natin yan. Now, the air you breathe, no? So, importante po nito. May study nga po na uh, they look at this group, pinapag everyday breathing exercise, meditation. Tapos, they observe yung effects sa katawan and they notice na mababa nga ang incidence ng inflammation. So, which is good. Now, the next approach to this is, of course, dapat po dito as a strong reminder. Pag itong next na strategy is or method natin ay yung through medicine. So you have to consult your doctor, especially kung hindi ito over the counter. Or even over the counter, you have to ask. Mas maganda sana po. Now, one of the OTC ay yung non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, no? And of course, the steroids are corticosteroids. But you know, these drugs, yes, they can reduce the pain. They can alleviate probably the pain or reduce the inflammation. Pero, as we all know, as advised by your doctor, meron po yan side effects. Pwede pong tamaan po ating kidneys. Pwede rin po yung vision natin. Pwede rin po yung bone natin. So, meron po yan effect. Osteoporosis pa nga daw. Now, importante po as always, the so-called as for consultation from the doctor. Mas proper po yun. And of course, this is based on the recommendation by health researcher, mga health authors. Supplements. Now, what I did is that I look up our so-called list of supplements and beverages, sabi nga po. But before going to that, I would like to recognize muna this team, the so-called LBNA team. By the way po, even last year, kami po ay we develop to have a more systematic at mas maayos na pagpapatakbo po ng ating LBNA sa ating operational po. We had a so-called development of manuals, different manuals. Different manuals po. Sa halimbawa, grupo ko po sila. Isang grupo takes care of the manual on basis of our practice. And it's a first. No? Tapos pangalawa po, manual dun po sa laboratory, what to do, how to properly treat, all those proper so-called activities dun. So nakasulat po yun kung anong proper. And one of them is the so-called manual of therapeutics. Ito po, if you would see other therapeutics, okay naman po kasi nakalagay po doon the signs and symptoms or the diseases, then the suggested supplements, then how many times are you going to take that one. That is a very manual po. But I challenge this group. Ang sabi ko po, no, we have to go further because I want always, it should be backed by a research, backed up by science and testimonies. Mas gusto ko po yun. Okay? So, they responded and I would like to recognize, of course, itong mga leaders natin dito, headed by two of our senior LBNA members. Ito po si Ana Livardo and Judilyn Sibigal po. Sila pong dalawa ang most senior LBNA members natin. And of course, I have to recognize yung mga members din nila na very, very hardworking, nag-contribute din po. Ito pong si Christopher C. Santos, Isadora Cayetano, Rufalin Joy Peralta, Harold Pasqua, Reggie Pamisaran, Philip D. Bilono, Erlinda Averion, Veronica O. Duclayan, and Ria Ann Ramirez. Salamat po sa inyo. Thank you for the good work. Nakakatulong po tayo, lalo na sa ating mga kauno. Okay. Therefore, nung tinignan ko po, what are the ingredients in those products that contributes to the reduction of inflammation? Okay, so yun po ang tinignan ko. And without taking away the other benefits, kasi most of this, meron din anti-na effect. Meron din, it helps in the reduction of the sugar, blood sugar, glucose level. Meron din sa cholesterol, nagpapababa. May mga iba-iba din po silang effect. But ang kinuha ko lang, among others, kasi marami, natuwa po, ang dami pala nito, na merong anti-inflammatory effect or reduces the inflammation. So I'll be mentioning some. And just as a challenge, tignan niyo po what specific product ang meron nito. So if you're taking this one, very good kasi po, you are actually helping na ma-reduce ang inflammation and eventually, you won't have that so-called chronic inflammation and eventually, you won't have that disease formation. So ano po yun? There is such thing as omega-3. So, pag may mga omega-3, parang nakangiti po tayo kasi we say it's healthy. Just a little trivia lang po. There is another omega na ang tawag ay omega-6. Omega-3, by the way, is more of the anti-inflammatory ang kanyang effect. While the other one, mas pro-inflammatory po siya. Even in, well, if you buy an oil, tapos somebody will present sa inyo, oh, ito, sir, ma'am, meron po itong omega. Dito sa company natin, anong sagot natin? Pag may nag-present ng ganon, we just don't say, oh, sige, okay yan. We say, omega what? Ano pong omega? Yun, di ba? Mas maalam po tayo. Mas maigi na po, may mga ganong impormasyon tayo. Next is of course, a mushroom called Agaricus blasi-moril. So, maganda din po itong, it has an anti-inflammatory effect. Next is the guyabano. Ako, napakaganda. Guyabano, again, has that so-called anti-inflammatory effect, and so does with the moringa. So, probably in our coffee, meron po niyan, di ba? So, very good po yun. And of course, just last week, I mentioned this one, yung chlorella and of course, the spirulina. So, in one good product, nakakombine po yun dun. Aside from health immunity, di ba? Na-mention natin yan during our lecture in the gut, about the gut. Na-mention po natin yun. At ito po has an anti-inflammatory effect. Napakaganda. And here comes the acai berry. Naku, pag berry po, tandaan niyo po, aside from its rich antioxidant effect, maganda din po ang kanyang anti-inflammatory or reduction of inflammation sa katawan. So, napakaganda po nito. So, another is my favorite, green tea. Gustong-gusto ko po yung green tea. It helps good well-being. And na-mention ko rin po ito last time during my lecture sa sa gut, yung probiotics. Diba? Very important ito. And of course, let us not forget, again, one of my favorites po, favorite rather na tinitake is the wheatgrass and barley. So, ito po napakaganda because, well, aside from the fact na may anti-inflammation to, may cleaning effect din po. It cleans your system. So, this is very good. Of course, glutathione, well, as they say, ang side effect niya or effect ay whitening. But on a greater note po, this is an antioxidant and it has an anti-inflammatory effect. Maganda din po ito. Very powerful ang ingredient nito. And if you recognize this one, mga nattokinase and red yeast, di ba? It helps you lower yung cholesterol level mo, the bad cholesterol. But aside from that, based on the study na nakita ko po, meron din siyang anti-inflammatory or reduction of inflammation na effect. So, very good po ito. So, again, this is how we are going to have our approach sa ating health. Although, nasa quarantine tayo, sabi it would end 2 weeks from now or more or less. I do hope magagamit natin itong moment na ito really to assess ourselves. Kailangan makita natin, our target is still to be healthy. So, mag-exercise po tayo. Di ba? May pag-aaral na po. In fact, yung pag-aaral na nga po sinabi, 20 to 30 minutes of moderate exercise every day. Aba, ang ganda po ng effect sa katawan po. And since we are just at home, let's do that. 24 hours and you just need 20 to 30 minutes in a day. Napaka-konti lang yan sa 24 hours. Pagbigyan naman po natin ang katawan natin to be healthy. No? Help, palaging panawagan ko, help your body to be healthy. And of course, again, to end this one as a frontliner, aside from my work as a frontliner, this is a good opportunity for me to, again, as I said, to share para po we will have a healthy body. Napakaganda pong cause on my part. Salamat po. A pleasant day and God bless po. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.